Hi, welcome to the Stay Strong for Christ podcast. My name is Eliza Van Leuven, and this is...
I'm Sheldon Shumway.
Sheldon Shumway. He's my dad, and he has agreed to come on my podcast and tell me a little bit about his journey in gaining his own testimony of Jesus Christ. Dad, what is your kind of life story, and how did you feel like you got your testimony?
My whole life story, it'll take a few years to tell that, but maybe I'll...
Their whole life story
maybe I'll
in so
summarize.
many words.
How about just a summary?
Okay.
Okay. So you want which part of it?
Just how you came to get your own testimony of Jesus Christ over the few years, and of the restored gospel specifically.
Okay, so I had a wonderful... It's interesting. I hate to compare Rich Dad, Poor Dad to spiritual family, non-spiritual family, but that's kind of maybe not a bad place to start. Because we had the Shumway family, great, wonderful pioneer family, and then I had my wonderful Butsy family that were descendants of Lymans, who also had a lot of early church history as well. But interesting enough, though, that my Butsy family, Lyman / Butsy family, had kind of been struggling a lot with the don't know what happened there, but my grandmother had essentially left the church, and what stood out in my mind there is that she was never anti. As a matter of fact, she was quite pro-church, but she was a great lady. Was very well known in southern Utah, in the Four Corners area, for her music, but she was also a coffee drinker, and I don't know if that kept her from going to church, but we kind of understood that she was a nice lady. But we compare that with my grandma Shumway's. She was just a really loving, tender, and caring person, and they were good examples about how to live the gospel. So I just... so
that's your dad's mom?
That's my dad's family. Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting because my dad was kind of a black sheep to a certain degree. I don't know if he'd like me saying that, but I think he might agree with that to some degree. But they got married, and my mom and dad got married, and not in the temple. My Shumway grandparents didn't attend the wedding; they were kind of opposed to it. And but subsequent to that, they did end up getting married in the temple a few years later, and they were doing a lot, striving to live the gospel, but for a while, and then they eventually got divorced and went through some struggles there. But I would say I'm comparing growing up this whole time a little bit. I just subconsciously that here's a group of people that are living the gospel. Here's a group of people that are not living the gospel, and then I remember very much in high school, I had friends. I lived near an Air Force base, and in Layton, which about half of our school was LDS, and the other half was not. So I had a lot of friends who were not LDS, a lot of friends that were LDS. Kind of always comparing and contrasting the feeling of those students, their families, their homes, versus what was going on in my home, and I, from an early age, just knew that there was never an aha moment. There was never any deep questioning growing up. Just, hey, this is presented to me as a good way to go. And as I grew, from all the way from youngster up until now, it's always like, yep, I get the confirmation. So this is the way. I've never found anything that's persuaded me even slightly to think otherwise. So it's I think I'm maybe not unique in that, but I've never heard anybody else kind of voice that type of testimony, so to speak. But I guess I do have the gift of faith to some degree. And so I remember, even as not even a deacon yet, we got bikes, and I found it just fun to have put on my Sunday church stuff, and I grab the bike on Sunday morning, and I would drive it around, and I thinking, wow, this would be fun to be a missionary. So I looked very, very forward to being a missionary. Didn't know what that meant, but I knew they had bikes and they had shirt and tights on, shirt and ties, and always felt a deep, abiding, good feeling when I'm in church, because there was a lot of I should mention there was a lot of tumultuous. My parents were divorced, and my mother struggled with some mental disease. Nothing serious, but it was always a bit tumultuous in my house. Not violent, but not ordered, and not always
not as peaceful.
Not peaceful, yeah. And there's not a lot of yelling, but there was always we were always poor when I was living with my mom, and so there's some struggles with that. But it brought peace, and peace was good, and good was great. So why not keep going with it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So those are the fruits of the gospel that was the most evidence for you that kept your testimony strong. So
I do remember praying about. My dad was very encouraging about reading the Book of Mormon. As a matter of fact, my dad, I remember he had 10 children, and my brother and I, when we were young, we were always kind of bouncing back and forth between my mom's house and my dad's house, and he was very conscientious, and he would get up. I remember there was one summer where he would get up and read the Book of Mormon with us, and he was very encouraging of us reading the Book of Mormon. I remember him one summer just encouraged Sheldon, you got to read the Book of Mormon. He would say, hey, look at this guy right here. He's your age, and he just finished reading the Book of Mormon. I got some news report he was pointing out. I said, oh, okay. So, and I love my dad, and he treated me very well. And so if that's what he wanted me to do, and he thought that was important, that's what I wanted to do too. So,
cool. Okay.
Yeah. So, I've never, I've done a lot of digging into other religions and other ways of thinking, and obviously the church history and all of this faith crisis stuff never has affected me. I don't know. Okay. Is that weird?
No. That's what I want to highlight here on this Stay Strong for Christ podcast. Mm-hmm. We have so many awesome podcasts of people leaving and coming back, and there's a lot of us, myself included, I'd feel like that we haven't really left. We don't have super exciting, in my opinion, stories, but of coming back, of leaving and coming back, I should say, but that we found what we found in the gospel, and we haven't strayed from it, whether that be because we haven't found anything better or because it's worked for us, So, and that's both for me. I feel like those stories need to be told too. So that's why we're here talking about
I've never really looked for anything better, but I think I would be smart enough if I felt like there was something better, that I would definitely reach out that way. But I just never found anything that seems nearly as cohesive, logical. The fruits are there, and it's amazing. So I'm just very, very grateful for the heritage that I've been given, and for the fruits of the gospel. So I'm just happy about it. There are times when I've been more faithful and more diligent. I'm sure there's periods of my life when I've been less diligent. I spent quite a few years traveling around the world for work, and was not able to be as involved in the church as I would rather otherwise would like. But I've always been very proud of the sacrifice that my ancestors made to be part of the gospel, and just very, very grateful for that.
Lots of pioneer ancestry.
Yeah.
So amazing.
And lots of good stories about the sacrifices. It's really funny is my grandfather, one of my great grandfathers, Charles Shumway, was quite influential. He was in the Council of 50 in Nauvoo, was first wagon train out of Nauvoo crossing the Mississippi, in the advanced group of pioneers in the Salt Lake Valley. founded Brigham Young, sent him to 4 or 5 different places to start different settlements when they were here, but never left one word about his life. There's lots of other people that told stories about him, and but I just know that looking at my grandparents' lives and what good people they were, and their testimonies, and just the love and that's very motivational to me, just to see that this is real and it brings good fruits.
So Dean, your dad's parents,
Lee and Mabel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They were around until I was in my got home off my mission, and they passed away shortly after that.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's interesting. My grandfather, he never spoke much either. So it's really funny. I can't remember. I remember he had a favorite rocking chair in his house that he built with his own hands, and he would, in his later life, would just peacefully rock in his chair. And I can't really ever remember him saying anything.
Interesting.
Just not a man of words.
Wow.
So that's my problem too. I got that part of the gene pool there.
Cool.
But Mabel was always very caring and loving, and would just cry to see us come and visit, and would cry to see it when we leave. And it was very adamant about teaching us the Bible stories and making sure we're okay, and making sure we got to church. It was very important for them. And it turned out, well, at the time I came along, it was both very important for my mother and my father that we got to church and that we were properly educated with truth and righteousness. Yeah. So good people.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, for the rest of your life, if you're going to choose to stay strong in the restored gospel of Jesus Christ for Christ, why do you think you want to do that? What are the fruits of the gospel that make you want to stay strong for Christ?
Well, for me, it's always been about happiness and joy, right? Just trying to understand what is the best way to bring. I'm kind of a simple person, so it's always about, I just want to minimize pain and suffering, I guess, and maximize joy.
Yeah.
And so that seems like there's no better way to do that. But I didn't answer your question. Is that your answer?
Those are the fruits of the gospel.
Yeah.
Happiness and joy. That's huge.
Yeah, and that's always been very, very evident to me. As I listen to other people and others' faiths and atheists and others, we do a lot of listening. Well, one of the favorite things that my wife and I have come to be doing the last few years is we listen to conversion stories from people converting to Christianity or out of Christianity, or all the different testimonies of people changing their beliefs. We think it's very fascinating, and so we listen to a lot. And but a lot of times people, I think, they're changing for the wrong reasons. I mean, for me, I should say, in the personal, it's just where's the long-term happiness going to be for not only myself, and this is one of the interesting things that I think we've lost in these younger generation. It's not just about me. It's not, it's about what is the founding documents of the Constitution is for. This government was established for our posterity, right? And we've lost that, and we can see now that we may have the first generation that is not going to be better off than their parents. And that's because people have stopped thinking about the longer term and what's going to be good, not only just for me, but for my kids, for society at large.
Yeah.
So, that's my thoughts on that, I guess.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Dad, for sharing your thoughts and your testimony. That was really special for me. And anyway, thanks for coming on the Stay Strong for Christ podcast.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Okay, love you.
Love you.